You're not alone. No matter how hard this moment is that you're going through with yourself or with someone else, you're not alone. We all, as people, share the same feelings. Now, your grief might be different than my grief, or my experience of my grief might be different than your experience of your grief. But we all have these feelings inside. So, no matter what you're going through right now, there's someone, and I dare say many, perhaps even millions of people, who have felt the same thing. No circumstance is exactly the same, as far as I can tell or have seen. But the feelings that we share, they create a certain bond or connection in us. Now, not to say that we can suffer together. That's the right thing to do. But to have us remember that we're always connected to each other. On a fundamental level, we are as beings one. And one way that we can see this connection expressed is how through these feelings that we have. We're all going through something. We're all navigating the highs and the lows, mostly the lows, I suppose, of this life experience. And for me, and what I invite us into in a lot of this content, is to embrace and focus on the experiencing the preciousness and the purity of life itself. You know, there's this thing in the Western culture around how life beats us down, quote unquote. But that's not life. That's our experience of life. And we bring with it our own programming, our own belief systems, our own mindset to the experience of life. And we project all of that onto the purity of life itself, the force of life, the life of love, the love of life. And in its purity, what I've experienced through this deep spiritual path that I've been engrossed in for a number of years, is that I see the truth of life is that it is love. And we are that actually inside of ourselves. So all this to say, we're not alone in the pain that we might be going through or the suffering that we might be going through. And interestingly enough, now I'm not dogging on feeling alone here, just to be clear. And feeling alone and feeding that loneliness that we have inside of us, and let me talk a little bit more about that here in a minute. Feeding that loneliness around, like holding on to it, it keeps us from the one thing, the remedy actually, from feeling alone, which is connection. Because I think loneliness, I know for myself, when I have these feelings of loneliness or aloneness, it keeps me from the thing I need the most, which is connection. And yes, connection with others. The best way to get connection with others is to be vulnerable, share vulnerability with the right people in the right situations for yourself. And I know that the way to get connected to ourselves is by being with and appreciating, and even, this might be a stretch right now, but even feeling grateful for the loneliness or the feelings of aloneness. Because the more that we can be grateful for an emotion, a feeling, an experience that we're having, our hearts soften. We soften generally, and we allow ourselves to be a movement and for things to move, for emotion, energy, and motion to move through our bodies. We might cry, we might spend the day in bed, we might binge The Office or Grey's Anatomy or something, depending on your flavor for binge watching. And then the next day or Monday, you get back on your feet, you put on your big boy, big girl, big person pants, and you get back out in the world, And hopefully you're a little bit more tender and a little bit more connected to yourself, a little bit more knowledge of yourself and what you're about, how you move, how you function in your world. And hopefully you've shared that with someone that means something to you, that's close to you. Yeah? So, and all of this within feeling alone or feeling lonely, you can do this. You can do this. It doesn't feel like it. And I think one of the greatest obstacles to personal transformation is feeling like we don't want to do it and then not doing it. One of the greatest successes that I've seen with people, and certainly with myself, is feeling bad and doing stuff anyway, doing the right things that we know are good for us anyway. For me, that's a fitness regimen. It's a meditation practice. It's spending time with my dear family and families. It's doing things that uplift me, and sometimes that means going and watching Furiosa on opening night. Great film. Yeah, so you do you. And do it even though you're not so stoked to do it, right? Do the things that you know are so meaningful for you. Without discipline, I don't know how people honestly function or have a fulfilling life. So practice some discipline. All this within feeling alone or feeling lonely. Do it. It's okay. It's okay. You don't have to feel great to do things that you need to do for yourself. And by the way, there are thousands, if not millions of us that are doing that. There's, I think, a smaller percentage of us of people that do that, but there are thousands. We are out there. And if you look, you'll find us. And you'll, in the process, find yourself. All right. A little cliched, heartwarming moment there at the end. All my best to you. I love you. I'm with you in your transformation here. All my best to you.